White House staffers not happy that some in the mainstream media are not giving enough credit for their historic wins. One complaining on Twitter with this, quote, "A historic confirmation Judge Jackson is Justice Jackson. Historic low for unemployment claims. Historic international effort to provide relief on Putin's price hike." So that's an effort to provide relief. Can't find coverage, she goes on to say, of any of it in the newsletter that purports to report on the White House. Though critics point to President Biden's growing crises as the real story, inflation is at a historic 40-year high. Americans face the highest annual increase in food costs since 2008. And the president's crisis at the southern border is also historic, as DHS projects 18,000 illegal crossings per day. And the unprecedented problems for his son, Hunter Biden, seem to be picking up some steam. So he certainly has quite a bit on his plate. Katie, do you feel like the coverage, I know the answer to this when I asked Katie this before I said it. Do you think the coverage is unfair?
Well, I would say if you are a Democratic administration in the White House complaining about coverage in the D.C. press, whether it's Politico or any other outlet, then you know that your policies are not going well and that the state of the country has a problem. I mean, this is not going to, having good press in Politico is not going to change the reality for the majority of Americans in this country. The lower middle classes who are dealing with the inflation, they're dealing with the employment picture, the small business owners, the people who are on the border and leaving the Democratic Party in droves as a result of the open border policies. And so that's just an indication that the administration is having a really tough time breaking through with their accomplishments as a result of all the other things that are going wrong for them.
Yeah, Jessica, you know, I'm always struck by this, and it made me think of President Obama when he was at that ceremony the other day, and they said, you know, what should they do about the midterms? And he said, just tell the story. Tell the story of everything that's good, right? But I think more and more, especially in the world we live in right now, people know the story. They get bombarded with media, whether it's on the right or the left, but they know the reality of what they're feeling in their lives. And I don't know that it matters, to Katie's point, whether or not, you know, Politico is nice enough to them.
It definitely doesn't, because the average American who is going to go out and vote isn't reading Politico.
Right.
Maybe they'll see some press clippings of whatever put together, but the story of how your life is going is told in the places we go every day, at the grocery store, at the gas pump, when you talk to your family, your friends, relatives, et cetera, on the phone. And obviously that story at this particular moment is not a fantastic one for the Democrats. I will say, though, that I do think partisanship is really important in this, because I heard a lot of people, a lot of conservatives complaining about even the coverage that President Trump was getting in some conservative outlets, saying, oh, they're not pro-Trump enough, that these people are rhinos, people who I've known my entire adult life and been following the news to be quite conservative people, so that any little criticism seems enormous and ballooned out of control, when these are still people that are going to line up and check that box for President Trump anytime he's on the ballot. And as an example, on the Democratic side, you know, liberals hate Chuck Todd now. They think that Chuck Todd is a conservative, essentially, because
that's amazing.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. This is what goes on in these bubbles, because he does lead with inflation stories. He has Senator Ron Johnson, on all the time, who repeated the big lie about the election, and he doesn't push back hard enough. So everyone lives in these little bubbles, especially when you're a meet the press kind of watcher, where they're just complaining about whatever's happening to their party.
Jonathan Karl did a long piece last weekend all about these things that we just pointed out that just are facts of what's going on, Jesse.
White House has some nerve whining about press coverage. The press got him in the White House when they covered up the laptop. It's not a good look to whine. That would be like if Greg gave me a yacht and I complained to Greg that the yacht was not the color that I wanted. And Greg would just say, give me the yacht back.
I would.
And that's what the media can do. The media created the Biden presidency. The media could destroy the Biden presidency like this. They start reporting on what's really in that laptop. This presidency is over. And to say that they don't do this, they don't do that, it's not just the laptop. They don't cover crime. They don't cover the border. They don't cover his mental unfitness. And we're acting like this presidency is just kind of hitting a rough patch. It's a disaster. And the press corps is just wondering, like, when the Easter egg roll is going to really go down. They really don't treat this guy the way they should.
But every presidency, Greg says, you know, oh, you're not covering our good story enough.
Yeah, they're always complaining. But this fellow over here made a very good point. To prove, Jessica, that we are not as partisan as we look, I'm going to compliment the White House on the confirmation of the Supreme Court justice. They all looked well-groomed. So the White House should be upset. The old line about loyalty is you don't shoot inside the tent, right? And we kind of know, studies show that the media and the Democrats share the same tent.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent when Chuck Todd criticizes the White House. It's the equivalent of Will Smith getting upset because his wife is talking smack about their marriage. That's what you're hearing right now. You're not supposed to do that. But the other question, and when you said that it's a disaster, it is a disaster. The administration right now is in bad shape. And you got the midterms approaching, and it looks like it's going to be a bloodbath. The polling, especially on crime and the economy, just looks really, really grim. But why aren't the Democrats panicking? And I feel like there is something up their sleeve, like they always have. I mean, let's face it. I mean, what is the next big hoax? You had the collusion, you had the P-tape, you had the Find People hoax, and you buried laptop. They're going to need something super big and super fake coming up to shake this box. And it's coming. You know it's coming, and it's going to have everybody scrambling, and then all of a sudden you find out it's not going to be real, but it might be too late. Don't you think that's happening?
Well, now I'm really nervous about the midterms.
I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be something really big that just makes.
There's nothing bigger than the P-tape.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
true. I have it on VHS. And it's,
Oh, that's where it is.
Yes.
Got it. I'm glad we
Martha's
found
making
it.
a face
By the way,
like, I hate being here
No,
on
I was
Friday.
just thinking about some of the stuff on that laptop. I'm like, yeah, I don't know which is worse.
Not
actually.
safe for work
So,
at all.
Yeah. All right, CNN's Brian Stelter getting schooled by a college freshman. Have you seen this back and forth? It's next.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.